Okay. Let's kick this thing off, Gilles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome everybody who's joining us as people are still trickling in. My name is Liam. I'm the head of marketing of MadKudu, and I'm joined today by Gilles, the CEO and founder of Livestorm, the
Thanks for having me.
platform that we're currently on. So Gilles, thanks for having us here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great. I mean, it's a meta thing to be guests on our own platform, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you guys out here. I've been really loving playing with the product, especially, as one market software to another. I always love good tools that play really well together.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to take some time today to talk about best practices around organizing webinars. So you guys have taught us a lot over the past few months, and also how we've been sort of integrating lead scoring to create a great experience through that webinar workflow.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
just as a quick heads up to everybody, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in as you go. If we see ones that are relevant, we may answer them on the fly. We may also come back around at the end. So feel free to drop them in the chat or in the questions section, and we'll be monitoring them throughout the webinar.
Yep.
So Gilles, I'll let you take it away.
All right, awesome. Thanks. All right, quick presentation, guys. So yeah, as Liam said, my name is Gilles, co-founder of Livestorm. In 2018, we're actually getting close to the 50 hours of webinars. So that's almost the same webinar. So it's kind of getting like automatic thing in my head. But I know my way around webinars, so I'll be able to give you some insight about that. And regarding Livestorm, which is the webinar solution we're using right now, we have been in 2018 500,000 minutes. So I could also provide a few insights about our customer usage of webinars and how they use it and how they do everything around webinars, so promotion, retargeting, and everything. So yeah, we've been around for a few years now, and we're starting to be kind of webinar savvy. So that's the idea. All right, so usually when I start webinars, and why webinars are actually pretty cool, I quote this study, and basically in 2017 you had this, I think it was a Forrester study. I don't know, I have to check that out, but 66% of marketers consider webinar one of the most effective tactics for B2B marketing, right? And in that study, you have this graph of all the usual suspects you guys know. So you have like social media, blog posts, white papers, all the traditional inbound B2B lever that we all know, right? And webinar is right at the top of that. And above webinar, you're actually meeting the person face to face. And I think one of the things that makes webinar so effective as an inbound channel is that it scales so well. You can have group sessions for demos, for customer training, and one person behind a computer like me or Liam host a webinar, host a demo webinar to tens, if not 100, if not 1,000 people at once, and still have some kind of personal interaction with people logging in and asking questions and everything. So it's really a good trade-off between meeting the person either face-to-face or doing a one-on-one and being as efficient as in a group session. So a good trade-off. And when you say scalability, then we have something that is more efficient. For example, for the sales becomes more efficient. And then therefore you have more margins because you have less costs in sales, and which results eventually in more revenue. So everything is kind of connected. The better you scale, the more revenue in the end. So webinars are a way not only to actually have an inbound channel, one plus inbound channel is a way of actually cutting costs and getting more revenue eventually. All right. And actually, this is a pretty comparison table. And when we first started Livestorm and thought of building why we should do webinars in the first place, we just put a simple chart and compare, right? So you have like a 1 hour one-on-one demo with, I don't know, actually it's euros, so €4 per hour for each sale. So basically the total cost will be 6,000 for all the demo that you have hosted during the month, one-on-one demos. But if you include webinars, and part of those demos, you will be redirecting part of those leads to a group session because XYZ, because maybe they're less qualified, because they don't want to have a one-on-one because it's too engaging, have a more self-serve approach. So either way, it's a good way of redirecting, rerouting part of those leads to a webinar and cutting costs, and has something in the end that is more efficient in terms of time, in terms of sales, as well as in terms of revenue. All right. And plus, a bonus if you had an on-demand webinar, which is the basically webinar pre-recorded, which is is zero costs. I mean, just the cost of actually doing the pre-recorded, but after that, it's just an evergreen webinar that runs solo, and then people just register to watch a pre-recorded gated video, so it's even less expensive. All right. So the typical use cases that we see here is demo webinar for sales, training webinar, customer success, so more down the funnel, and then content marketing, really top of the funnel kind of thing. So evangelizing about your industry, the problem you're solving. So to give you an example, we work with Mailjet, and Mailjet do essentially content marketing webinars, so really top of the funnel. And they talk about their expertise in emailing, expertise in GDPR, which they were the first emailing software to be GDPR compliant. So they talk a lot about that, and that generates a certain amount of leads, and then it just go down the funnel with either more webinars, more tactical webinars, or maybe one-on-one for the VIPs. But more on that later. So this is, I think I'd say most companies kind of respect that kind of funnel, the sales funnel. So you have the awareness, so really top of the funnel. Should I, should I be interested in that topic, or what this topic matters? Consideration, how do we qualify people that leave out the contacts email or something? Decision, is this the right thing for me? And then loyalty, this is the right thing for me. I'm just going to advertise on that tool because I love it. So that's the full stage. Everything, well, every business is different, but I think this is the backbone of every sales funnel. So let's bring out the first one, and let's take the MadKudu example. So I think that most of the time, people basically go to the website and say, okay, I have this interrogation, right? Could I even generate more revenue, but faster with the actual incoming leads, with the actual process I have? What is this something for me, right? And usually what you do for that is you have blog posts, newsletter, ebooks, you try to evangelize around the thing you're trying to solve, right? And webinars can go in that stage as a top of the funnel topic, so like Mailjet was doing. And the goal here is to capture as many registration to fill out the funnel, and then you'll be filtering that after. So webinar top of the funnel topics could be in a recurring thing. So every month or every 2 weeks, for example, do a really top of the funnel webinar. Make sure you create a conversation, get the thing going, and fill out the funnel. And the cool thing about those kind of top of the funnel is that there are usually high quality contents that you put on a blog post after that, or on a white papers. But what you can do is actually turn that into an on-demand and make the webinar live forever and generate leads forever, which is a super effective way of filling out the pipeline, without lifting a finger. It's basically automated. Second stage is, okay, I understand the problem. I want to know if this is the right thing for me. So I kind of understand what MadKudu is all about. Now I need to dig more and see if that fits my business, right? So usually what happens is I fill out a form on your website, right? And I request a sales deal. I request a one-on-one, or maybe I going to a HubSpot page and fill out my contacts to watch an on-demand video of a demo of the product. And webinars here is actually one of the most common use case. And this is actually what we do. We have the product demo, kind of a mid-funnel product demo, overview of the product, cover the different use cases, respond to the most common interrogations, and making sure that people know what we're all about, what it can do, and so on, right? So here you should not focus on the number of registrations that you get, but the attendance rate. Make sure that people as many people as possible attend the webinar and get the message right. And if they don't attend, then you just either retarget them for the next live session and do that on a recurring basis. Every week is a good ratio. Or you can just offer them an alternative as an on-demand if you consider that non-attending the webinar is a sign of being less qualified. And then you just send them this same on-demand demo webinar they can attend whenever they like. So the on-demand is always a response to, as an alternative of, are they less qualified? Should they need a different alternative because they don't want to engage too much with us? But this is also kind of a sign of being less engaged, less qualified. So, up to you. And the third step, so the decision-making thing, is how am I sure that this MadKudu software is actually the best solution for me versus the benchmarking that I started doing, right? If there is any competitors for MadKudu, not even sure. So should I actually use this? This is the main question, right? And usually what happens is people just grab their phone, call you, say, okay, do you have this specific feature, or do you have this specific thing that will be like a decision-making thing for me to actually subscribe, right, and pay for your service? And again, what you usually do is call case studies, stats from past customers, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. Webinars here could be really focused on customers. One thing I have seen is, I don't know, it was with Mention or a different company, but basically they are hosting webinar really specific on one feature that they find has a wow effect. Like, I don't know, I'm going to send something them, but maybe an analytics that is super powerful or something. They focus on that specific webinar and they bring out someone as a, I don't know how to say that in English, but as a guarantee to make sure that this is like an objective testimonial on the effectiveness of that feature. So they bring in a customer essentially, and they start interview that customers on how to use this specific feature and how it has changed something for them, right? So it's really focused on the customer, focus on one specific features or specific features, and again, aim for attendance rates, because the more people attend this webinar, the more they will convert after that. So yeah, registration in terms of the number of registration doesn't really matter here. It's more of the participation ratio. And again, if they don't attend, then boom, send them to an on-demand, or maybe retarget them through a different webinars. But that's the same drill over and over again. And the last step, which is kind of a post-funnel, let's say the customer has paid for a subscription with MadKudu, it's going well, they are really convinced that this is the best product for them, for the use case. And now, how do I get the most of that? How do I get results right now? I don't want to wait to get results like in 6 months or anything. I want to see results as soon as possible, justify the buy that I just did. So usually they just call the customer success team, and then they get onboarded. They send out tons of documentation and videos and everything. Webinars can also go here, technical demos on how to set up. Here, I think the speech is a bit different from the demos as a sales perspective. It's just a way for them to make sure they have all the right best practices on how to use it. Make sure they don't fall into, I don't know, like a misusage or misconfiguration thing. They should be able to use the product as if they were you, the founder, or as if they were you, someone from the team. Make sure they have all the right cards in hand. So it's really focused on technical things, support, make sure, for example, a good example, and this is something we want to do pretty soon, is to have support webinars focusing on the top searches or the top questions on the help documentations. So basically people search something on the documentation, and we will focusing on the search, focusing on the tickets, the most asked questions, and go over them through a package webinars and as an onboarding thing. And it's a great way of scaling CS, scaling thing, and making sure that people everyone get the most common questions answered at once. And of course, if people have a specific question or a specific problem, or if they are really VIP webinars, you can still do one-on-ones on the side. I mean, webinar is not supposed to replace one-on-one, just to optimize the funnel. So yeah, that's for the fourth step of this breakdown of the funnel. But yeah, maybe you want to take over, Lime.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a really good overview of the funnel, especially through the view of how to use engaging video content. And And a lot of what we always think about, especially when you talk about how do you get each person through that next step, we talk a lot at MadKudu about how do you determine the next best move? Who should be going to those VIP webinars? Who do you want to give more time? Who do you want to send to a nurturing campaign? And the core of figuring out the next best move is something that we've been working on for a while, and it's predictive scoring. It's really determining the behavior and the likelihood that someone is going to convert based on historical data and what you know about them. And so as a quick overview, so for those who don't already know MadKudu, we're a predictive scoring platform. We work with a lot of high growth SaaS companies to really help them identify the needle in the haystack a lot of the time. Some of these companies have hundreds of thousands of new leads, and they're always trying to do lead scoring. And the way we really approach it is to say, look, everyone's doing lead scoring. Everyone who's in this webinar right now is doing some form of lead scoring. And at the very beginning, we often have a lot of SMB companies that come to us, and we have a Zapier integration. So for people who want to get the value out of MadKudu, you can use the MadKudu integration in Zapier, but you can also use lead scoring by Zapier, which is its own Zap, which is actually powered by MadKudu as well. We're also inside of Drift, so if you're a Drift customer, you're already getting value out of MadKudu automatically. But what we say very early on, and that's a lot of what our core engine is really just determining who's good, who's bad. And a lot of that is, I want to get rid of spam. So I don't want my sales team wasting time. I don't want to invest in people that aren't going to convert. And I want to invest, I want to prioritize bigger companies. It's generally bigger companies are better for you. And as you scale up, you really move to this sort of rule-based concept. For anyone who's ever used HubSpot or Marketo, you're familiar with if job title equals CEO plus 5 points. It's really this kind of idea where you start to say, what industry on LinkedIn correlates the most? What's the employee size? What's the geolocation? And you start to build out this sort of table model, this rule-based model. And where we generally come in and where you start to think about predictive lead scoring is when you start to get into the next phase, which is you're really starting to try to look for who can I upsell? I've got tiered plans, so I've got SMB plans and enterprise plans. I've got a big funnel. I've got free users. So typically companies that are running freemium plans or free trial plans, there's a huge necessity to know of all of the people who might sign up for free, who should I be focusing on? And especially for as you go up market and you start to think about account penetration, you start to look at, of the big accounts, which ones are ready to talk to sales, which ones are ready to go on. And this is where we start to think about predictive scoring and even account scoring. And that's where MadKudu's sort of under the hood really brings value. We really look on increasing sales efficiency. The reason in the beginning you only need to worry about filtering out spam is you've got time. Time is the thing you have at the beginning when you're a small company. What you need is to make sure that the best people get the best experience. But as you move up, that gets increasingly complicated. And so this is the type of stuff that we typically work on with customers. So on a very quantitative level, we tend to break out leads when we score them into very good, good, medium, and low. Very good means high probability of conversion. And not only that, but they are going to make up a core chunk of your conversion. Good means we're starting to move down that funnel, and we don't really expect medium and low to convert. We expect there to be some level of outliers, sort of 5 to 10%, because you can't predict everything. But our goal is really to find the 20% of accounts that are going to represent 80%. Here we've got actually 6% of accounts representing 40% of conversions. So you know exactly where your sales team needs to be prioritizing. And this is the type of insights that lead scoring can pull out when you start to embed product marketing and sales data into how you think about what the next best move is. So on the next slide, you'll see there's another chart. We really try to look at breaking out, you'll see this a lot, percentage of population against percentage of conversions. What we're always looking for, and what anyone's looking for when you're trying to predict the future is, how can I find the subset of my population that's going to represent a statistically larger set of conversion? Because that tells you that that's where you should spend your time. And in order to do this, we have to go through a lot of steps. There's a lot of different things that we sort of pull out, a lot of different attributes. But at the end of the day, there's one core reason why you need lead scoring. And I think that's the thing that we really wanted to talk about today is why do you need lead scoring going through? And I think the first thing that everyone generally agrees with is our sales process is broken. When you've got, I mean, one of the reasons that we love Livestorm is the registration process is so easy. I don't need anything more than an email to get you on board. And that's kind of our feeling is, why do you need to know whether I'm in the pharmacy or safety industry in order for me to give you money? Is that really what you need? And the thing we realize is, one, there's a lot of data to suggest the more information you ask from people, the less likely they are to convert. So on the next slide, there's actually a study that shows that, it's actually on a different deck, but there's a study that shows that the more fields that you have, the less likely people are to convert, and it drops drastically. And so what we really believe is that you want to make the process easy. And this is what we see with one of our customers, Outreach, that is actually on this deck. With Outreach, we really focus on something basic, which is instead of thinking in an inbound mindset of how do I create a big funnel and then create all these barriers for people to get to the next step. That's my dog. Sorry about that. I think our mailman arrived. So instead of thinking about how do we create these filters, here what you see is we're actually creating a very simple form in saying, look, if Elon Musk signs up, he doesn't need to tell us what his first name is or anything. We want to get him there immediately. However, one of the things you can do with real-time API-based scoring is you can say, if when we get the lead, we don't know enough about it by using data enrichment or account scoring, or if it's not a professional email address that gives us an account, let's just add more information dynamically instead of scaring the person away asking for information. And so what you're really seeing in this workflow is we're actually scoring the person, determining that either they're a low priority, and usually what low priority means is the email they've given us, generally a personal email, doesn't actually tell us much about them. And there's two sides of that, which is if someone gives you a personal email, they're probably not interested. That's a low sign of intent. But also if you don't know anything about them, it's really hard to score someone high. And so this is the type of thing that we really think about, right? What we want to avoid is sales time being wasted on unqualified leads. This is the biggest waste of money. You're literally wasting probably one sales rep if you have 5, if you're spending time on unqualified leads, right? You might be able to hire an extra person or not hire an extra person and have a better cash flow just by focusing only on the best leads. I think if you ask any salesperson, they would prefer to only talk to good leads. And what we've noticed is the problem that we run into is that sales has an idea about what a good lead is, and marketing's trying to use data to map what a good lead is. And the hardest part is getting alignment. And where predictive scoring really creates that alignment is by saying, we're not going to choose the attributes. We don't decide what's important and just say, this is now going to be important. We look for what's statistically relevant. And you end up getting a lot of alignment just by having a third party balancing around that to really say, okay, we're going to hold marketing accountable by saying they're going to have to bring in qualified leads. And we're going to hold sales accountable by saying if marketing brings in qualified leads, they need to give them the attention they deserve. And this is the kind of balance that you get. And so this is the type of impact that we end up seeing. You know, at the end of the day, coming back to the core story is when you're creating webinars and when you're bringing people together, what you want to be doing is making sure that great leads coming into your webinar funnel are getting the attention they deserve, which means that they're getting follow-up. But as you guys know at Livestorm, hundreds of people are signing up for webinars, right? And you're not going to follow up the same way with every single person. That's not because you don't like them. I mean, it's amazing to have all of you listening to us right now, but it's because some of you aren't actually ready to use our product. Some of you don't actually need our product. You're interested in that, and that's why we're here to educate. But some of you actually have the problem today. And what we want to make sure for every single person is that if you have the problem today and you're here because you really feel the pain, we want to make sure that we talk to you immediately. We don't want you to feel like we don't understand your problem. We want you to feel like you are our #1 priority. And this isn't more than a theory. Like, it's not just about saying, focus on good leads and because good leads are good. We actually ran a study with one of our customers where they actually took a big risk. They spent a month dividing their sales team in half. And 50% of them only reached out to qualified leads. And 50% of them reached out to all leads. And what they found was clear, was there is a huge impact of reaching out to qualified leads versus not reaching out to them. And there is no impact in reaching out to unqualified leads versus not reaching out to them, especially for self-serve products, right? When you look at a product that maybe has a self-serve funnel and also a sales velocity and an enterprise funnel, there really is no impact. Where you see the ultimate impact is the time it takes for you to react. So when you realize that you've got time is working against you, prioritization is working against you, you've got an inbound funnel of many people who have priorities that are in different orders, then it becomes really clear that you want to spend all of your time making sure that your best prospects have a quick and great experience. If they're trying to schedule a demo with you, don't play email tag with them. That's not what you want to do, right? If they're watching a webinar because they know they have this problem, they're using both products, you want to bring that down. You want to bring that down to talk to them immediately, right? The people who are attending this webinar who really need MadKudu aren't just going to get the follow-up email saying, here's the video. We want you to get that. That's great. We want you to share it with everyone. This content is here to teach people about lead scoring and about webinars. But for the people who really feel the problem, we want you to feel like, look, our VP of sales is here. He's ready to talk to you. Let's find some time. Tell us what you're working on, and we'll see how we can help you. And I think that's the big process, right? We believe in a frictionless sales process. We think that a great lead should have the experience of, as soon as they feel like they want your product, they should be talking to someone. And this is one of the big products that we work on, is called MadKudu Fastlane. And it really comes back to the same thing, which is if you're interested in talking to us and you go to schedule a demo and we see that you should be talking to us, we see that you have the MadKudu problem, that you're right in our core ICP, then we want to give you access to our calendar. We want to say, look, we're not going to play email tag with you. We're not going to qualify you. Just find the time and talk to us. And this is the kind of stuff that we run with our customers, where we see huge conversion rate, because if you look at it from the buyer's perspective, there's no greater thing than saying, oh, I feel this problem, and then immediately someone says, great, I believe you, let's talk, right? There's no greater experience than that. And that's the kind of impact that we want to have at MadKudu. We really think of lead scoring as a vehicle for creating a great experience for your best prospects. And it's why we say that everyone's doing lead scoring, and everyone can create this experience with or without MadKudu. It just means thinking about, how do I create a frictionless experience for the right leads, right? And if we come back to it, I think this was the conversation that Gilles, you and I have been having for the past couple months, is really about how do we create that amazing workflow to make sure that webinar attendees, and that this webinar workflow, especially from a sales perspective, you're generating the right amount of pipeline with the right attendees. And well, maybe I'll let the expert take over and talk about that a little more.
Well, yeah, thanks. No, actually, I had one question that was actually linked to the how you qualify those leads, and are you based only on firmographic, or is there any secret sauce behind the MadKudu engine that enables to have that level of qualification, that level of insight on a given lead?
Yeah, so there's a few things. So we build our models based on two things. We build it off of firmographic data. So typically what that means is geographical data, title data, characteristics about the person. And we also build a behavioral model for people as well. So when we work with customers like Slack and Envision, we're not just looking at, does the account look like a paying customer, because everyone eventually looks like a paying customer, right? And those companies have been doing that for years, saying the biggest companies we want to talk to. And now what they're realizing is certain companies aren't ready, and certain companies that don't look like they already are. And that's where they turn to us on behavioral fit. And those are things where we're looking at in-app activity, we're looking at engagement, and what we're looking at really clearly is, what are the things that users who aren't customers do that tends to make them become customers, right? From a product perspective, we follow an account. So we look at this not just at the lead level, but the account level, and we look at what did people do who used to not be paying that are now paying. And then we turn around and go, anytime people do those things, that increases their score, right? That weighs into their score. And once they hit a certain threshold, that's when they become sales ready. And so one thing is and there aren't a lot of people using product data to get that done, right? We're integrating into Amplitude, into Mixpanel, into all these products to make sure that we have real time, into Segment, of course. So wherever you're feeding your product data, we're pulling it out of Segment and other CDPs. But the other thing on the firmographic side is that we're not just pulling out data enrichment tools. So a lot of people are using tools like Clearbit or HD Data or Albacross or Leadfeeder, all these different data enrichment tools. Data enrichment's really good, but typically what we find is none of our customers are getting more than 80% enrichment data. And so one, you don't want to buy a lot of them. So what you really want to do is say, I want to get data from the place that's going to create the most value. And so we do two things there. One, we look for the right data vendors for the right circumstances. So we have access to all of them. We pick and choose where we get our data from. But the other side of that is we don't just pull in data and use it. We try to create as much value out of firmographic data as possible. And one really good example is a lot of times when people sign up, you can either ask for or get through the IP address the zip code, right? You might find out that MadKudu is based in 94041 in the United States, but that doesn't really tell you that much. One, because there's tens of thousands of zip codes. So across even 100,000 leads, how useful is a zip code if everyone's got a different one, or you only got, at most maybe 100 people who are in San Francisco have it. And even in San Francisco, there's multiple zip codes. In New York City, there's multiple zip codes. And so what we do is we take that and we actually map it out to things like GDP per capita of that city. Is it urban, suburban, or rural, right? We actually try to turn that data into smart data. You might know that 94041 is actually Mountain View, California, where Google is based. So that is actually much more value to know. But even if you only took the name Mountain View, you might not know that Cupertino's right next to, and those cities should be treated as similar areas. And so what we try to do is always, we don't just look at the enrichment data, which is a lot of what great companies are doing today at the beginning. We go beyond that. We pull out hidden data, derived data. We'll do things like look at the tech stack of companies, but we won't just pull out their tech stack. We'll actually categorize that tech stack, and we do things like, is a company using advanced tech or not? Are they a Google house or a Microsoft house? And these things tend to play a lot more important than one particular tool. That someone is using Google Analytics isn't nearly as important as whether they look like they're a Google company. They only use Google tools, right? Or they're an e-commerce company based on what they're using, or they're using advanced tech because we detect React. React itself isn't what makes it valuable. Knowing that they're using modern tech is actually what makes it valuable. And so I think we pull out hundreds of derived and hidden and composite features into that firmographic profile, and we get a lot more value out of that than out of job title or state location.
I think it all goes down to context. I mean, when you take the example of zip code, the zip code doesn't matter. It's just the context of the area. Is there a lot of money in that area? If you take, for example, the Alexa rank being like, I don't know, 45,000 something doesn't give me that much. But if you know that being for 45,000 something in the Alexa rank in the US is being close to companies like, I don't know, Envision, Mars, or those guys, then that gives me a hint on what kind of company this is. So yeah, I love this more context kind of thing. I mean, it's the step beyond being enriched. It's actually providing a context based on that arrangement. It's kind of, it's smart. Okay, cool. So going back to this. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, we actually have some customers for whom having a high Alexa rank directly factors into their lead score. And we also feed them that through MadKudu Signals, which is a feature where we actually send to the salespeople inside of Salesforce the list of things that contribute to a lead score. But we actually also have customers for whom it's the opposite. It really depends on what you're doing, right? If you're a chat tool or an acquisition tool, having large web traffic corresponds to someone who more likely has that need. But if you're an enterprise accounting tool, it's irrelevant, and especially if you target SMBs, right? If you're an SMB accounting tool, you might actually look for low traffic because what you want is small unknown companies. And so it's really interesting to see how it's not just a question of saying, are they this, that, and the other? It's really, as you said, it's context. It's what is the actual need? And a lot of the times what we look for and what we end up finding is some of the data lines up with what people expect, but some of the data sort of spits in the face of what people think, just because we have preconceived notions about what makes a lead good, whereas AI and machine learning just uses data, and so it comes out with, oh, this is what is statistically relevant, basically.
Right. No, that's great. Okay, so coming back to the webinar retargeting thing. So essentially, it's connected to what we just said, but basically when someone attends a webinar, everyone has, people don't have the same expectation. As you said, some people just not, well, they're kind of interested, but then don't really know if they still need MadKudu right now. But maybe some of those are in those 5% that really interested, really have a problem that needs to be solved, and MadKudu is like the perfect fit or something, right? So when people attend a webinar, what we're trying to do here, for example, on Livestorm, is we send the attendees to Zapier, and then through Zapier, we run a couple steps. And one of those steps is actually running MadKudu algorithm. So the MadKudu Zap app, it's basically the lead scoring in Zapier, but it's powered by MadKudu. And it scores all the attendees. And then based on that, plus we add the data from the webinar. So if they have attended for, I don't know, at least 50% of the time, if they have responded to a poll saying, hey, this demo was useful, yes, or do you want to have a sales call after that? Yes, no, blah, blah, blah. So based on their engagement data, then we do different things. So if they are engaged, if they are qualified, blah, 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 then we send a campaign email, simple campaign email, say, hey, here's the link to my Calendly, and let's schedule a call. Let's talk about your business and what your objective and so on, and let's move forward with this. And at the same time, we put them into an ad set, retargeting ad set, to kind of nurture the customer with relevant advertising based on, I don't know, customer stories, industry focus, the same content that we have seen earlier for the so the decision stage of the sales funnel. And if they're not engaged, or if they're less engaged or less qualified, then we pull them into different campaigns. When nurturing campaigns, say, hey, you know what? Feel free to check out this blog post or this thing. Maybe it could interest you if you have, if I don't know, if lead scoring is something you'll be interested in knowing more. And then again, put them in different ad sets to have the same kind of content then displayed in front, put it in front of those guys. And for people who didn't attend the webinar, then you just have some kind of default ad set, retargeting, nurturing kind of thing, and then hope for them to come back into the loop. So that's for the basic webinar retargeting we have in place. Been working well so far, and yeah. So maybe you want to add something, or I could just go with the promotion.
I think you hit the nail on the head, which is for people who should be talking to your sales team, for people who should advance to the next stage of that buyer journey, you want to make sure they get the exact right message, right? And I think that's the thing that comes out, whether it's through retargeting, whether it's through a follow-up message. I think the end goal always comes down to the same, which is you want to make sure that the people who should be talking to you are getting the attention they deserve. You want to make them feel like you recognize that they're a VIP. And I think at the end of the day, it comes down to that. It comes down to having this switch moment where you say, are they the type of people that we want to invest in? Are they the type of people that we want to get closer to talking to us? Yeah. And that fundamental comes down to the same principle.
Yeah. Actually, I just realized I made a mistake on the slide. It's the one from the no is campaign A and campaign B, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, let's move on. All right. Now the thing is, that webinar is great for scaling. That retargeting must be done based on lead scoring, predictive lead scoring, and make sure that everyone gets the right message after the webinar. So I think what's left is, how do you generate webinar pipeline? How do you fill out the funnel and then filter out? So one thing that we are really fan here at Livestorm is actually don't kind of do a lot of active promotion. I think you have to take that as a blog, when you're building a blog or building a blog post, writing a blog post. There is a part of active promotion, making sure that it's put in front of the right people, but there is also consistency that you have to do, making sure that your platform becomes a rendezvous point for this kind of content on a recurring basis. So what we do, for example, is we have this recurring demo every single week, Thursday, 5 p.m., and we drop that in out of our automated message, automated email from when people give it, sign up for a trial, sign up for whatever leave a contact at some point. We just said, hey, you know what? There is this thing, recurring demo webinar every Thursday, 5 p.m. Paris time. If you don't make it this week, make it the next one. It's always on, day out, day in, even during Christmas if need be. So it is there. And there is also this on-demand webinar if you need to have something ASAP. And another way of doing the promotion is to showcase that on your website. Make sure that you're going to route. I mean, you probably have a lot of traffic on your website or a decent amount of traffic on your website. Maybe you just want to reroute a portion of that traffic to the webinar, at least to the registration page webinar, and make sure that those guys feel, okay, there is a thing. Maybe I'm just going to sign up and see how that goes. Even if I don't attend the webinar, maybe I just get the replay and see if this is something for me. And what we do provide is this widgets to display your upcoming webinars and display the webinar form for registration you can put on your website. And then, for example, if you go to the Livestorm website, it is on a web page at the bottom. You have a section saying upcoming events. It is, and we drive a portion of that traffic on our homepage. It's around like 20K users, unique visitors per month, rerouted to that registration pages. And each week we get around 50 registrations to our demo webinars without having to do a single promotion, because it is there, people can see it, and we have this passive promotion going on. And another thing you can do is, sure, go ahead.
For you guys, it really makes sense, right? Like the great thing is, what do people want to discover in your product? They want to discover the value, and the value is going through the webinar experience, right? Being an attendee is the greatest way to see what the attendee experience is before becoming a host. And we do this very similarly. We currently do something where if you go to madkudu.com from the US, as it turns out, because we ended up having to narrow it in, we'll actually offer to score you as a fit against MadKudu and say, would you like to see what we think about you? And we'll show you, and we'll run through, these are the types of signals that are coming up about you. This is what we think in terms of a fit. This is what we would normally recommend you to do at the next stage. Now imagine if you could do that programmatically for every one of your prospects, right? And a lot of that is about, and we do that all inside of our chat, our in-website chat. And a lot of that is all about how do you give people that aha moment, and how do you again make sure that people feel like they're getting the experience, they're going through that journey.
Exactly. And so yeah, it's all about being like making sure that people actually go on themselves, making sure, I mean, doing active promotion is good, is okay, but it takes time, it takes some resources. In the end, it's kind of not that cost effective, because you have to post like on social media, on newsletters, blah, blah, blah. But if you have something on a website, either it's a live chat showing off what the algorithm can do, or this is like a webinar registration widget, that in both cases, there is this moment that you can see the value of the product and you don't have to lift a finger. So it's pretty cool. And to come back on the passive promotion thing, we work with Intercom here in Europe, and they have this amazing workflow where basically there is this live chat popping up saying, pre-qualifying everyone that does want to have a talk with Intercom. So it's say, hey, what's your name, blah, 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 what's your company size, etc. And based on that data, they basically reroute them to either a webinar, group session for, let's say, less qualified, but they do also have like a small webinars with 3 or 4 people, so really small webinars, but only for VIP. So they are leveraging different sizes of webinars, different sessions, different sizes of group sessions based on those qualifying aspects. So I don't think they're using MadKudu, they should, but they still have that kind of scoring and then rerouting kind of thing. All right, and it's all automated since it's a chatbot doing the scoring.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And yeah, as for the active promotion and how you fill out the webinar pipeline, what I usually do, if you're going to like invite people, make sure you invite the right ones. So make sure you don't invite people that will not be that interested by having a demo, for example, webinar demo, for example. So what I do is have this dynamic segment of qualified leads in Intercom, for example, and I know that those guys, they could be interested. Those are trials, try a user. They fit our ICP, they fit the patterns that we have identified, and then we run them through the MadKudu algorithm, and then we download the ones that are interested, and then we send out an invitation. But it is active promotion, but it is smart active promotion. Don't like spray and pray. Just make sure that whatever you're doing, it is relevant for the audience you're going to. Otherwise, it's just like, vanity metrics of filling out the webinar with people that, don't really matter in the end.
Yeah. We've actually been doing this. I think I was telling you about this before. We've actually been having, when we do co-marketing, we have our partners score their user base against our MadKudu score for ourselves. So we ran that with Chili Piper, and we're doing it with Instapage and Drift and Segment over the next few months. And what we really say is, look, there's no point in inviting people who don't have a problem, who don't feel the pain. Exactly. And we actually have a really good tool for figuring out who statistically feels the pain. And so we end up inviting a lot less people, but you see the conversion is like, 25% of people receiving the email are registering. It's huge. It's exactly what you want, right? You didn't waste a single email.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. That's exactly what I was talking about. And if you're interested in knowing more about different kind of promotion lever you can activate for the active promotion, we have this webinar promotion page, and it's kind of an evergreen page with like 30 something promotion tactics. You can check the ones you have done, and then come back and recheck, and you have like an updated list of all the things you can try. And it's all saved in your browser, so each time you come back to the page, it's saved and you have checked the boxes. So yeah, it's a kind of fun tool to make sure you have tested everything in terms of active promotion. And there's a couple of best practices as well, so check it out. And yeah, so that's about it for me.
Awesome, man. That was jam-packed. So we blew through our 30 minutes and went straight into 45. I had a feeling we'd go a little long. We had a lot to talk about. I think we've run a little late already, and I think we've already given people enough information. But obviously, we're gonna follow up with an email to everyone. If you have any questions about lead scoring or using webinar software, reach out to us. But thanks everyone who joined. Thanks everyone who's watching this afterwards on demand. And we look forward to talking to you. So Gilles, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll talk again soon.
Yes. Cheers.
Take it easy. Bye.